Well, we're looking at this matter in-house, and Gimba Umar joins us now. He knows, Gimba, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much, guys.
You know this place inside out. I mean, every Nigerian is concerned. Most, I should say. Yeah, everyone will be concerned when lives are lost. Because when those who are not so familiar with the terrain or how the place is will think, why is it every time and again, you get to hear one killing in Jos, when security move in here, you hear another one happens somewhere else. Is it that the bone of contention is what cannot be solved?
Well, you know, Chamberlain, the problem that is happening in Jos can easily be traced to the history of what Jos is today. If you remember, there was a time when we just had Jos as the capital of Plateau State. But now that Jos is divided into two. We have Jos North and you have Jos South. That came into being just to try to stop the killings and grievances and backlashing that has happened over the past 30, 40 years. Jos was known to be a home of peace and tourism. As a matter of fact, that is the payoff line for that state. I've grown up in Jos for over 30 years. So I know Jos as much as anyone else can talk about Jos. So I can tell you authoritatively that what the problem is in Jos is about the land. Simple. Over the years, the indigenes of Jos have traded their land. And you had the merchants that are coming from the north, from Bauchi, from Kaduna, bordering states, that bought over this land. And the people who have lived there, have had their children there, they have their mainstay there. And then the indigenes now want their land back. How can there not be a friction? That's where it starts from. Now there are two ways this crisis is happening. One along religious line, and the second along traditional lines. The religious lines is the encroachment of the north. That is why you have Jos North now basically constitutes the houses, should I say, the Muslims. It's really difficult to separate religion and tradition these days, especially in central Nigeria, Plateau State to be precise. The second one is along traditional lines. That is why you're having areas like Wase, areas like Barkin Ladi, areas like Panshing, Shandam, Langtang, all the way to that axis. You hardly see any of those goes beyond Riom. When you get to the, geographically speaking now, when you get to the, there's a roundabout that takes you one to Lavia, the other one takes you to Panshing and Shandam, Lantang, and the rest of them. The one that goes towards Lavia, the crisis usually happens at a place and stops at a place called Riom. And that place is a volatile place. The reason why it will be difficult for the Nigerian army to arrest this is simple. The topography. You have vast, it's a plateau, it's vast and it's wide. Before you can make a distress call, and the center of security in Jos is in Jos itself, the capital. The other police posts, I call them police posts because they can really, rarely do they have up to 50 policemen that can move very swiftly like that to arrest any attacks on the villages there. Now the villages itself are in small huts, 20 people, 30 people. That is why when these attacks come, small settlements, thank you. That's why when you have these attacks coming, they can come to a small village of 20 people and kill everybody. And
then no distress.
No distress. What time? The response time cannot even. It's not logical to have a response time to call in from Jos. If I have to travel from Jos to Barkin Ladi,
how long would
it would take me at least say 40 minutes. And Barkin Ladi, you see big fields of farms, and they grow this Hungarian rice, and you could just see it just all over the field. So for you to travel from Jos Center, which is the stronghold of the security on the ground there, before they can move, the people would have finished, the attackers would have finished what they're doing and moved on.
Yeah, but the thing is this. Within Barkin Ladi, you have different groupings. What would you say is the distance between one collection of people to the next?
Okay, take this for example. Let me look at Kuru. where you have the science school, Kuru, you have government secondary school, Riom, along that axis. From there, you can see the Jos airport. And you can see it without any obstruction. It's just clear. And the Jos airport, if you have to walk, I've walked the distance from Kuru to the airport. And I walked and came back in the evening. That's just to give you an estimate of how far it is. Now you have pockets of other settlements that are just far apart like that. There's a place called High Point. I think that's the highest point in Nigeria. It's just in front of the Kuru Science School there, I think. From there, you can see as far as you want to see. You know, that's what it means. So if there are people hiding in the bushes, because it's partly savanna, if you have people hiding in the bushes, you cannot make them out. These people can stay there overnight and carry out their activities and sneak back into the bushes and go. It's not a dense forest that you will have. It's just grassland, you know, plain grassland. So it makes it so easy for the attacks to happen, but so difficult for the security forces to get there. That's the problem. Now we'll continue to have this problem in Jos as long as there's a land dispute. The origins, the Biroms and the Angasawas, yes, they want their land, but their lands have been traded away. You're going to have that problem. And you have the problem on the second hand also, where it's along traditional lines, where the people of in Lantang there's always fight, and Wase we just saw what happened. So the military will have to devise some kind of means to get their personnel in good time to reach those far distances.
Yeah, because one wonders because this is not the first, second, or third, it's been happening for several years. So if they had sat down and said, listen, we need to sort this out, they could have mapped out the unique security architecture to ensure that these kind of things are taken care of. But it appears as though today we have committees, tomorrow committees, and the question is, what happens to all those reports that they come up with at the end of the day?
Those reports can help them, actually. It will go a long way to help them to at least curtail, to a degree, what has happened and what is happening.
Didn't the people there believe in those committees to the extent that they will come up and testify because they've done it once, twice, thrice? So one wonders, wouldn't they be at some point in time just get fatigued of all those committees?
Let me take you into the minds of the people who live in the remote areas outside the city center. They are agrarian. They go to the market. They have got market days for different local governments, and that is how they get by. So that man is not thinking of this. He doesn't have the hope or the conviction that the security forces will be here for me, because they're too far away. Anything you think about in Plateau State, you have to go to Jos, the center, the capital of the city.
And sometimes it's so far away that some areas are even closer to Lafia, the capital of Nasarawa State, than they are to Jos.
And they're still part of Plateau State.
Yes, they are.
If I have to travel from Jos to Nasarawa State, I'm traveling for at least
about
4 hours.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm traveling for about 4 hours. And if I'm having, give or take, 16 villages, and I have to travel 4 hours, can you imagine, by estimate, the distance apart between them?
But the security stops along this route, for instance, 4 hours from Jos to Nasarawa City. Their security posts along
the security is just when you're entering into Jos. And when you're entering into Nasarawa State, say maybe that 5 kilometers into, then you see the roadblocks. But in between, it's just vast. There's no security there.
Well,
and there cannot be, because what will you be doing there?
That's not how I quite recall it, though, because I do know that at some point, when there was some crisis, how will I put it now? There was some religious crisis. Then it came out as a religious crisis. There had been security stationed from Mungu down to Shendam, that area, from Shendam down that area as well. You would see some security stops. I think at some point too, there were even protests against some of these security stops as to what their essence were when, these attacks were happening very close by. Do you think that they could be incapacitated, or sometimes maybe they do not have enough personnel to even man those places, and so it prevents them from being able to respond even when there is an attack?
Let me surprise you. Let me surprise you, Malcolm. The security forces that you just mentioned are along the road. The people who attack don't use the road. They come from the bushes. They come from the hills around. So while the security men are manning the road, and then people are traveling, coming in, and they're checking their cars, that's not the route. That's not the route the attackers use.
Yeah,
they come from the hills.
What somebody thinks of, I mean, when you hear a story like 11 Hilux vans and one truck was used.
Did they go through the hills too?
Did they go through the hills as well?
Well, I don't know for this particular case that happened in Wase. They might have used the road, but I can convincingly tell you that those flash killings that we see, at night especially, those people are coming from the hills. Coming from the hills, coming from the bushes. They are well strategized, well positioned to carry out these attacks such that when they finish, they can leave in good time before anything else happens. That's the reason why we've not been able, or the security forces have not been able to catch them. If they had caught them, it would have been on the road where they were.
Gimba, if you were to suggest or prefer a solution to all of this, what would you be saying should be done? I mean, you've been there, you know how the people there live, you know how the community lifestyle,
I'll tell you one thing.
And all of that.
I know that there was an attack in a place called Rantia. I think we had it on the news also. There's a place called Rantia. We had an attack there. But no one was killed. The reason why no one was killed was because the youths within the areas of federal low cost, state low cost, Rantia to Rantia Model School to Dadinkowa area, they mobilized themselves and they were standing guard day and night. And that was how they were able to repel the attackers. Now it has to start from the within, from the inside, for the case of Plateau State, because there's really no time. I mean, basically, let's face it. If you have to wait for the security forces to get to you, a lot of damage would have been done. Lots of people would have been killed already. So it's up to also, as part of what I would say, the people living there should also be vigilant. There is mobile technology now. If they can call and if the police can come in good time, that's a plus. But first of all, we've got to watch ourselves. That's what the people are saying. Let's watch ourselves first.
All right, clearly a lot needs to be done to save lives or prevent more lives from being lost. Thank you, Gimba, for coming on this morning.
Sure.
But before we wrap up, let me just read this out. It comes from, trying to get it. His name is Leo Adeogun Favor. It's a distressed message. He says his parents were just abducted in front of their house at Okeila, Ado-Ekiti, Ekiti State. He would like to circulate the news so that they can help him find his parents. Well, that's the show today. We thank you all for watching. I'm Chamberlain Osa.
Well, thank you for staying there. I'm Maokwe Ogun.
And I'm Neo Taegbe. Have yourself a good day and a good weekend.